welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and today we are going to be doing a video talking about books that follow the same couple. So my favorite type of book series are interconnected standalones where each book is a new couple but they're all connected by a family, a friend group, or a team, something along those lines. But for this video, I am going to be recommending books that are a series where they all follow the same couple. So you do not get the HEA for the couple until the end of the series. So this is, again, something that I don't read as often, and I tend to, especially in romance, go towards standalone type books, but I have a couple to recommend to you, so we're gonna get right into it. The first series that I have to recommend is the Read Rivers trilogy by Lauren Rowe. So this is 3 books that follow Read Rivers and his heroine, who I believe's name is Georgina. Yes, I was right. So in this series, Reed is a record exec. He owns River Records, which is a record label that is incredibly popular, incredibly fruitful to creating very famous artists. So if you've read any of Lauren Rowe's other books, the Rockstar by Lauren Rowe, their band 22 Goats is signed to River Records, and so is Red Card Riot and any of the hero and the heroine from the Hate Love duet by Lauren Rowe. So all of them are signed to River Records, and this trilogy is Reed Rivers, the owner of River Records, love story. So Reed has very big personality and a lot going on, so it took 3 books to get to his HEA, but basically what it is the heroine in the series, Georgina, meets Reed when she is in college. She goes to this panel where it's like a Q&A type panel where she actually wants to attend it for another person on the panel. She doesn't really know who Reed is, but she wants to attend it for another person on the panel because she wants to be a writer and she wants to write about music. She wants to write for this magazine about music, I think like Rolling Stone or something along those lines. And she goes to this panel and she ends up spending the entire panel like flirting with Reed, like with her eyes. They like constantly are making eye contact and like winking and flirting with each other without actually speaking to each other. And so when the panel is over and she goes and talks to the other person that she had shown up to see, Reed doesn't get to see her. She ends up leaving. She has to go to work. And then she works as a bartender, and Reed just so happens to walk into the bar that she's bartending at, and they see each other again. And they decide to go home together, but in the car on the way there, they get into a fighting match where they both have incredibly big personalities, and Reed is very used to people just like taking what he dishes out, but Georgina is not willing to take his shit, and so they fight and Georgina leaves and they don't sleep together. But Reed is very attached to her fiery energy, and so he goes searching for her, and he actually ends up getting her a job, and she goes on tour with one of his bands, and they end up seeing each other again, constantly in forced proximity, and really have to deal with each other's very fiery personalities, very large personalities, while also finding out about Reed's background and all of the actual like trauma that Reed's got in his past, because his life has not been easy. And this one really introduces some of his friends really well, but it's so good, it's so interesting, and it really does take 3 books to get to the HEA, to get through all their very fiery, very large personalities, and I loved this series. I think I gave 2 of the books 5 stars and one book 4 stars. The next series that I have is the ACOTAR series. So the first 3 books, the main trilogy of ACOTAR, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, and A Court of Wings and Ruin, is the next one that I have on my list. These 3 books follow Feyre as she finds her HEA with her hero, and I absolutely love this trilogy. If you haven't read it, what are you doing? It really is as good as everyone says it is. It is a fantasy romance trilogy, and it's amazing. I really don't know how to say much more about it other than please, please, please read it. It's so, so good. And this is one of the main series that got me really excited about reading again when I first got back into it, and it really is fantastic. And Feyre is such a great heroine. She goes on such a journey of self-discovery and growth, and I love the way that Sarah J. Maas writes her characters. They have so many sides to them. You cannot help but root for and love them, but they also have sides of them that are really hard and trauma-filled, and just they have so much going on, and seeing them find their romances and being able to root for them and as they grow and they learn is so amazing, and I would highly, 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 highly beyond words recommend this series. So the next series that I have is the From Blood and Ash series. I have only read the first 2 books in this series. I'm hoping to read the 3rd book this month, crossing our fingers that I do that. But this series is following Poppy, and this is another fantasy romance series. So Poppy is in the first book what's known as the maiden, and she is basically not allowed to be looked at or talked to. She is told that she is very important for her for the survival of her culture. And she is very sheltered, and one day she decides that she just wants to live life for one night, and she goes out to this basically pub, and she is wearing a mask, and she ends up kissing this guy. And then she leaves and she goes back to the castle, the palace where she lives, and the next day she sees that guy again when he is her new bodyguard. So they are forced together a lot. He's her bodyguard, he has to protect her, and they spend a lot of time together, and they have romance, and it's amazing. It's so, so good, and I am ashamed of myself for not continuing the series. Like I said, I'm really hoping to read the 3rd book this month, but I absolutely loved the first 2. I gave both of them 5 stars and would highly recommend if you're looking for a fantasy romance series that follows the same couple. The next one that I have is the Lost Elemental series by Tessa Hale. This is actually a reverse harem series. It has 3 books, and it follows a heroine who is living in the human world, and in this society, whenever you graduate high school, you are tested to see if you are if you have magic. And if you have magic, then you are sent to this realm where you go to a paranormal college depending on how strong your magic is. So the heroine in this series, she believes that she's just human. She thinks that when she goes to get tested, she'll just be human. So she walks up, she goes to get tested, and it turns out that she actually has very strong magic. And she is sent to this very powerful college where she ends up meeting and becoming very connected to the 4 princes of the elemental magics. So in this world, people usually have 1 or 2 magics. If you're incredibly powerful, you have 3, but only one person can have 4. That one person is called the Ether, and they are the one that bonds with the 4 princes, and they are the queen, basically, of the world. But there hasn't been an Ether in a very, very, very long time. It's been like 100 years, and the 4 kingdoms of the different elements are what are in power right now. And the 4 princes of each of those kingdoms is at this school, and they are the ones that become very entranced with the heroine. And it's a really fun series. I marathoned the whole thing in like a day or 2, and they're all pretty short. They're all, I think, under 300 pages or just 300 pages, so it's not a very, very long series, which I really appreciated. It didn't feel like it had like too much in it. Like, it was very well edited down, and I enjoyed myself, and I thought it was very fun. The next one that I have is the Elite series by Ella Frank and Brooke Blaine. This is a 3-book series that is a MM romance series, and it follows fighter pilots in the military. So this series is basically Top Gun, but MM and romance. So the heroes, both of the heroes, One of them is named Solo and the other one is Panther. Those are their call signs. I don't remember their real names, but those are their call signs and what they're often referred to in the book. And so Solo is a very maverick from Top Gun like hero. He's constantly showing off. He knows that he's really amazing and the best, and he doesn't follow the rules a lot. And the other hero, Panther, is a legacy. He is very uptight, follows the rules, constantly under supervision. They are both going to this academy, basically like Top Gun, where they are the best of the fighter pilots of the Navy, and they are put against each other in this sort of competition to find out who actually is the #1 best of the best. And Solo and Panther are paired together during this training, during this competition, and they don't get along at first. They are very different. Their personalities conflict highly, but they can't help but fall for each other, and they end up having a romance, and I loved it. I loved this series. It was so freaking good, and I would highly recommend it if you want a MM romance series. So freaking good. Solo is hilarious, and seeing Panther, like, seeing him tease Panther and seeing Panther having to like put his walls and try and like stick to this rigid, structured type person that he's always been is hilarious, and I love it so much. The next one that I have is the Make Game series by Kay Lorraine and Meg Ann. This is a series that I've talked about a lot on my channel recently because I just read it in January, and this is another reverse harem series. So there are 4 books in this series, and the heroine in this one's name is Sunday, and she is supposed to be a werewolf shifter, but she has never shifted. This makes her grandfather very mad, and he's like, she's a disgrace. And so he decides to send her to this paranormal college where she ends up meeting a vampire prince, a Nova's guardian prince, her rejected shifter mate, her fated mate that she rejected, and also another vampire who's actually her professor who used to be a priest. And she ends up being very attracted and bonding and finding out that they are all 4 her fated mates, and that she is incredibly powerful, and that she doesn't actually know where her parents came from. There are a lot of secrets about who her mom is, why she's so powerful, what's going on as the world starts to like have issues, and Sunday seems to be at the forefocus of it. If you read the series, I would highly recommend the audiobooks. They're full cast, like 6 different narrators do the audiobooks, and the accents are done incredibly well. I had a fun time with this. This series could use some editing. The writing is... The audiobooks make it better, but the writing is not 100% amazing. Like, it's not going to win a Pulitzer or anything, but it was so fun. It was addictive. I literally could not stop reading them or listening to them, and it was fun. So if you want a fun, paranormal, great audiobook, reverse harem, would recommend. Then the last one that I'm going to mention is also a reverse harem series. The only multi-book series that follow the same couples that I read are reverse harems and fantasy. So this one is the Bonds That Tie series, and the first one is called Broken Bonds. And like I said, this is a reverse harem paranormal series. In this world, each person has a different type of magic, and you also have multiple bonds, which are basically like fated mates. So the heroine in this one's name is Oleander, and this book starts with her in a car crash that kills her family, and she has a lot of secrets, and instead of going to what will be her bonded mates, she decides to run away, and she's on the run for like 2 years before her bonds finally find her and drag her to Draven Academy, where they lock her up basically because they are incredibly mad that she ran away. They don't know why she ran away, and they are incredibly mad. And so the first book is very like bully romance-esque. The rest of the books aren't. but in the first book they're very mad that she ran away, and you end up finding out a lot of the secrets that Oleander has. Everyone at the school thinks that she has no powers, and it's interesting to see the way that we all know that we as the reader know that she has powers, but they don't, and it's interesting to find out why Oleander feels like she has to hide it, and how she falls in love with her bonds, and how they learn to forgive her for what she did with running away. But I loved this series. I had a really, really fun time with it, and I would recommend it. But that is the last one that I have. I'm sure that I will eventually read more, but those were the ones that I could think of off the top of my head that I would recommend. But that's gonna be it for this video, so thank you so much for watching. Please like if you liked it and subscribe so you can see more content from me. But other than that, I hope that you have the best day. Bye.